Hi everyone, and welcome to the Young and Black campaign webinar series. This is the first event in our series exploring Black LGBTQIA+ identity within the UK. My name's Shanice, and we have an amazing panel today who are going to have an exceptional conversation around what it is like being Black and LGBTQIA within the UK. We'll give it a few more minutes just for everyone to join into the conversation.
What do we do? Do we just dance?
Like I said, my name's Shanice. I'm from UK Youth. UK Youth is a national leading youth organisation. We work with young people across the UK to ensure that they are equipped to thrive at all levels within their lives. We work with the UK Youth Movement, which is made up of 7,000 organisations across the UK, reaching 1.6 million young people. Today's event is a part of the Young and Black series that we've been hosting throughout this year. And what we are doing is highlighting the lived experiences of young Black people within the UK. I'm now going to hand over to our host, Reese, who's going to be hosting the conversation today. If you want to follow this conversation live, please follow the hashtag Young and Black on Twitter. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A function and we will be answering them 10 minutes to the end of the conversation. So I'm going to hand over to Reese.
Hello. Hi. Yes, I am Reese. I am here to host, just to kind of facilitate a little bit of the conversation and to ask questions and to keep these cheeky sods in tow. No, I'm kidding. We're all grown-ups. Yes, I am a performer, drag artist here in the London scene and internationally. Host. I do work with Ask the Aunties, with Snapchat, talking about kind of LGBTQI issues, and I'm just a Black queer individual, so hi. Maybe we can go around and hear a little bit, introduce ourselves. Should we start with Aiden?
Hi, I'm Aiden. Also go by AID. I'm a DJ and club promoter. I'm a part of Pussy Palace Collective and the newly founded Dope Black Queers, with a podcast coming soon. My pronouns are they, them, and theirs.
I'll go next. My name's Key, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of AZ Magazine, which is an online platform for Black people, LGBT Black people and people of colour. I'm also an electronic engineer.
Just to go next.
Okay, I'll go next. My name is Rose, and I'm one half of the Tutu's podcast. And podcast is just basically about bridging the gap between the Black gay community and the cis het community. And also I'm the founder of the Black LGBTQIA+ Therapy Fund, which was just founded about 3 months ago. And yeah, it's lit.
And Kai, were you on mute?
Hey, I'm Kai. I don't know, I'm just like a Black trans queer person. I'm really young, I don't have any of these achievements to list off right now, but that's just me.
Okay, so that's everybody, and now Kai, you've got all the achievements, man. We're just here, do you know what I mean? So yes, let's say we've got about 3 questions. We're gonna spend about 15 minutes on each one. And yeah, please feel free to, we did all this before you guys will join, so I'm just repeating myself. So our first question here is, what has been your experience as a young LGBTQI+ person in the UK? I guess kind of talking about your experience of growing up and your experiences with racism here in the UK. And yeah, all that jazz.
Okay, I'll go first. Okay, so I came out, I'm now 30 and I came out in my early 20s. And at the time, my experiences just basically existed in Vauxhall and, you know, on the club scene. And there just wasn't much else out there. And even online, like it would just be going on YouTube and looking at American studs, and which are the masculine presenting people in America. And you know, I just felt that there wasn't much in the UK, and we just sort of mimicked what they did at the time. And yeah, I wouldn't say that I really existed in any other scene apart from the Black Vauxhall scene. And that was basically that's what it wasn't at home. You know, I grew up as a Mormon, and I'm Ghanaian as well. So, you know, things at home are quite religious. So when I was first coming out, there was a lot to overcome, and the scene was basically where I went to feel, you know, just to exist and to feel validated.
You know what, I can really understand from your perspective of like religion, because I was brought up in Sheffield and brought up with my Jamaican grandparents who were 7-day Adventists, and it was intense. All I knew when I was growing up is that it wasn't okay to be a part of the LGBT community. No one said anything, but you know, it would be those little microaggressions when someone would come on the TV or there was a kiss and you'd see them, you know. But then when I came to London and I came into myself, I was probably about 15 when I really realized that I liked women. I guess I was lucky enough to kind of have a little community around me. So I had like a few friends that had also come out. But outside of that, we didn't know that Black people existed, like Black gay people existed. It was like, okay, so should we try and go to GAY, like, and see if there's any there? Do you know what I mean? It's like how I found my community was like MySpace at that point. And I know that's like, yeah, I'm 30 as well. So it was MySpace.
It's been a while.
Yeah, and I changed like my sexuality on MySpace to bisexual, even though I knew I was a lesbian, just to kind of put something out there so I could try and find people that looked like me. And I guess, yeah, I like when I came out, my family were quite accepting. They were quite accepting, but they never spoke about it. So that was my experience.
Yeah.
I think my experiences are kind of similar to both of yours. I'm from Luton, and I moved to London 6 years ago for university. And up until then, I'd never really interacted with spaces that like housed my sexuality or stuff that was not straight. Predominantly because they like really look like white spaces, and I've never felt particularly comfortable in them. But you know, in first year, I did forego like going to GAY and Heaven, and I went once, and I haven't been back. It wasn't for me, and that's fine. But I resonate with what Keith said about kind of when I came out to my family. There was no horrific response. But it was like, okay, well, you keep that over there. We ain't gonna talk about that one again. And kind of that's the starting point, and then we've worked slowly beyond then. But where I would really say that I've found like a place of home in terms of queerness and how it intersects with my Blackness is in club spaces like Pussy Palace and like Babes, that are there to center me and people like me and many people that are on this panel and on this session. And it is a really important, and it was an important moment in my life when I first went to a Pussy Palace event, and you could just see that we existed. Like, oh, so like it's not just me. There's a reflection, and there's a reflection, and there's a reflection, and there's this reflection I did not know that I, you know, needed to see back. Yeah,
I think I have like that experience is kind of like I knew that I was like trans at like 13 maybe, but I kind of felt like, well, I knew for a fact that my family weren't going to accept it. Like both my parents are Ghanaian and my mum's like heavily Christian, and every time she saw like a gay person or a trans person on TV, the comments and the way she'd look at them, and yeah, it wasn't nice to say the least. So I kind of felt like, okay, this is just going to be something that I'm not going to be able to even like say to her, because like I didn't think I would be able to even have that type of conversation with her. I only just came out this year to her quite recently, because because I kind of wanted to get that stress off of me, finally. And she had the reaction I was kind of expecting, unfortunately, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been, actually. So I'm quite grateful for that. But I think I was lucky as to like have some like youth spaces for LGBT people in general, because like in secondary school, I didn't think like there was a place where I could feel like fully myself. And luckily, like I had Mosaic Trust to go to and like meet other queer people and actually have like my first experiences. Like that was the first time I walked through somewhere and like someone actually asked about my pronouns. So I was like, wow, I can actually like say this out loud and like acknowledge it and not pretend that it's something that no one understands. Like it was like, yeah, a very wholesome moment, to be honest.
Yeah, I actually went to Mosaic Trust as well. I think to the youth club in Kilburn. Yeah, so full circle. So I'm nearly 30, so like 10 years nearly above, and that was one of my first places, and a place before that called Pace. And yeah, a lot of what you guys are saying parallels with me. I think also the microaggressions. My mum was actually very accepting of my queerness because I was so like, she had to deal with me from 5, do you know what I mean? But people are like, well, your parents okay with you being gay? And it's like, it wasn't the, you know, we had the femininity before that was more of kind of like, not an issue, but something that she worried about. But like, even with all that love, there'd be like microaggressions, a gay kiss on TV, and then, you know, not at dinner time and that kind of stuff. And it's a hard one to navigate. I grew up in East London in Hackney. I went to Stoke Newington School, so I actually feel quite privileged that I went to a very mixed school, and I came out as the same thing on MySpace. I changed my thing. I was like, just so everybody knows, I'm bisexual, and if you don't like that, you can just delete me as a friend. I went into school, and actually it was a really positive, and I was expecting to be shunned, especially by, you know, what I deemed to be the rude boys, but actually I found that like they were very respectful of the braveness, braveness is a word, which was really nice. But even having said that, there was nowhere for me to go, and I didn't know about queerness. I remember these were times when I didn't know LGBT at the time, you know, I didn't know this stuff, and I walked into Pace, and then after that, Mosaic, and then after that, this was when I moved to Kilburn because I got kicked out of my house, so life story. I moved to Kilburn, and somebody who I was living with took me to Vauxhall, and exactly that same thing. I walked into Fire, and I'm not gonna let you know, let's keep it all above board, but you know, that is an experience to be surrounded by that. And then moving forward, places like Pussy Palace, places like Half Cocked Life are exactly as you're saying. You just go there and you feel, well, it just ain't a white space, you know what I mean? And that's just so relaxing. So yeah,
I want to touch on the point that you made about like your femininity. I think one thing that I struggled with when I was younger is my masculinity. Because I popped out of the womb and I was definitely just masculine presented from the jump. Like, I never liked to wear dresses. No makeup, no nothing. It was literally, I just wanted to be in tracksuits all day, every day. And I think that's where I struggled, especially with my family, because they didn't know how to navigate me being a woman and masculine presenting. I got from my dad, it was like this weird, let's talk about girls. And I'm like, okay, that's not what I'm about. I'm not just my sexuality. Like, we can have a normal conversation. Yeah. Even still now, like, some of my family members are quite weird about my masculinity. And if I'm going to, like, for example, a wedding, I still get asked if I'm going to wear a dress. Mm-hmm. Even the same in schools and in workplaces, you have to wear this uniform. You can't wear trousers. You have to wear a skirt. And that was so confusing for me, because I never saw the representation in mainstream media. So the only thing that I had to look to was men. So then I started to perpetuate like some real toxic masculinity because I had no one to kind of give me any sort of direction in that sense. So I think, yeah, that was quite hard for me growing up because I just felt like no one understood and it was just me.
Yeah. I was gonna, yeah, I think on that with the the cross between, I guess in my case, femininity and blackness. I was talking, my mum was white, but I was talking to my auntie about how my mum experienced my femininity as a kid. And my auntie said she was worried for you, but she was also worried for you because you had a double negative as far as being black and being effeminate. And that's a hard card to be dealt in this world, in this Western world, but also in the black community, to be femme as a man is, she, you know, in what she perceived. So yeah, there is that crossover. I wonder if other people can speak on that.
Yeah, I've experienced something quite similar as well. And not too long ago, I had a conversation with my uncle, and he was I spent a lot of time with him growing up. We used to go to the garage together every weekend, and he bought me my first pair of trainers, all of that. And he used to talk to me about women all the time. So he just felt like I was the way I was because of him. And he said, well, he just sat me down and he said, you know, it's okay to like men. Like, I know that I like women, but it's okay for you to like men. And it's okay for you to want to wear dresses. That you don't have to copy me, basically. And I was like, you know, uncle, I mean, I've been like this. It's been a while. You know, it's been a long time. I've just always been like this. Apart from on Sundays when we went to church, in the Mormon church, women and young girls have to wear dresses and skirts. You're not allowed to wear trousers. So I used to wear the same one skirt every single Sunday because I didn't want any others. And nobody really understood it until I did come out, and they were like, oh, you suspected it, but okay. Everything was starting to make sense to them. They were able to connect dots a bit more and try to understand. And they, like everyone else here as well, like some family members are a bit weird and some of them don't want to talk about it, whereas others on Instagram liking my pictures, or they're on Facebook saying, well done, you look great like this, and stuff like that. But, you know, I don't know, it's just a weird balance. But one thing I've noticed is no matter how your action is, there's always worry at the core essence of things, and they just wonder how other people are going to perceive you. Even my friends, when I came out to them as well, they were worried about if I'm going out and I'm wearing like men's clothing, how other people would react towards me, if I'll get beaten up and stuff like that. And it's been fine. Like their worries are fine for the most part. It's been fine anyway.
I mean, I can definitely relate it with the kind of policing of femininity, which I think I only recognize has always happened. I recognize that now, and I can see instances of when I was, I don't know, like 5 or whatever, my mom was painting her nails, and I would like stick one of my fingers up there for her to paint, and they'd be like, no, what would your dad think? Meantime, I don't think my dad would have actually had a problem with it, but for her, it was this like, I don't know how to raise a child who looks like you and expresses themselves like you. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how to protect you. I don't know how to make sure that you're safe. I don't know how to map out your life if you're going to, you know, if you express yourself like this. And so it's a lot of fear on their part. And I think the lack of representation that we kind of suffer from not having, they also need just as much to assure them that, oh, like my child can exist however it is that they're born to exist, and they're going to be fine. Like they'll find love if they want to, or they can get a job if they can get a job. Yeah.
True. Sorry, I wanted to ask you something, Kai, but I think this is making me think of something. How about something that I've been exploring in my work recently has been how that protection, though, actually can be traumatizing to a young person. What our parents want to do to protect us, children are very intuitive and I know that a lot of what my mum was trying to do to protect me, I picked up on and read it as me being wrong, and therefore have grown up with, and it transcends my sexuality, it transcends my femininity. I'm a bloody drag queen, do you know what I mean? I'm like, you know, I'm fuck gender in my intellectual, but some of the trauma that I took on as a kid transcends that and will never really leave, and it's something to work through. And I wonder what you guys think on that. And I also wonder then what you think of safe spaces. Kai, you said you felt like you had maybe more than we did, and just all that. Yeah. Kind of, if you could speak on the safe spaces, and if you think that things are different now.
I definitely feel like having the safe spaces that like I've had access to has helped me growing like in my identity. Like a lot, and I probably wouldn't have been able to like be the person I am today, because like obviously I wasn't able to be out with my family. So I needed some kind of space to actually be queer, because at home it was just like, I can't be this and it's way too confusing. My mom wouldn't like want that for like her child. So yeah, I think it has changed, and I think having those spaces now for like younger queer people to go and actually express their identity and like surround themselves with like other queer people is very important, and like was very important for me, because that's where I got to also meet like other Black trans friends, like other trans friends in general, and like just have a shared experience for like the first time.
Thank you.
I think kind of like when you go into a space where there are other people there like yourself, it can give you the confidence to exist outside of those spaces as yourself as well. So I mean, that's, for me, that's one of the more important things about safe spaces. It's all good going there and being able to exist and feeling free in that moment, but to be able to get the energy out there, to come out of that space as well and also be yourself, no matter what anyone thinks, no matter what parents or aunties and uncles or whatever may think as well. Like, I think for me personally, that's what I got the strength to come out from. And you know, it's also because it was just too much pressure. Like, I'm going out and I've got to lie about where I'm going. It was just kind of long. So it was like, I'm going to the gay club, okay? And that was it. Like, so for me, that was one of the more important things about being able to have a safe space. Even now as well, it's still important.
That was the same for me. Like, I managed to build my own little community. So I had like my chosen family, essentially, that are still my chosen family now. So from 15 to 30, I've still kind of had the similar friendship group. And it's nice to kind of have those conversations now and realize how far we've gone, but how far we've come, and just talk about our experiences and pass that on to like our younger generations. Because I've had 2 of my cousins come out now. And to see them come out and the way that they came out as well was just so beautiful, because they just stepped out and was like, hey, I'm gay, whereas for me, I was like leaving the house in one outfit and then getting changed at the club, you know. So it was nice to see that like we've put in all this work, you've created like a podcast, you have like Pussy Palace and AZ and stuff that have allowed people to see themselves more. So now this younger generation can kind of feel a little bit more comfortable to step out and be themselves.
I remember
nice to see how, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I remember on Twitter, because that's where all the great things come from, right? There's this tweet that like queer people, like we start unpacking and learning about ourselves later on in life, because we spend all of that so many years kind of like hiding who we are from ourselves and from the world. And what safe spaces have done for me, or spaces that center my identities, they've allowed that exploration so I can really understand who I am and understand who I am and the people around me and how I interact with them. And seeing those spaces made available for younger and younger people, it is nice seeing that you don't have to wait until you are of age to go to a club to interact with your identity. Like, in the same way that cis people get to kind of unpack that from as young as however, I'm enjoying seeing Black, queer and trans people get to do that at younger ages, so that they don't get to whatever age in their 20s and be like, oh wait, this is a new thing. They can get there and be like, oh, this is a thing I've been exploring for however long, and just continuation of their life.
I think there's a good, there's a lot of benefit to the online spaces as well. I think that is really changing that, because we, in nearly our 30, for me, nearly my 30s, it was something that was there, but it wasn't the same way as it was, not for as long as it was, to be building these kind of communities from actually pre-teen, and to be to have examples of queer individuals through Instagram. And it's a double-edged sword, obviously, but I think it means that you can be in a better position to then explore. I think it's a big conversation as well, because obviously there's things like funding and stuff being taken away from charities and organizations, from social clubs, and we're seeing queer spaces getting shut down, but at the same time you're seeing seeing a kind of tenacity from the community, I think, of nights at maybe not queer clubs opening, but queer nights at places like Dalston Super, especially in London, you know, Dalston Superstore, you know, obviously Pussy Palace, and there's like this fight against it. My alarm went off, so I'm gonna move on to the next topic, really, if everyone's okay with that. Yep, sweet. And I think we're just talking, I mean, it all leads on, but this is more talking a little bit about the systems and institutions that you think are disadvantaged young Black LGBTQI plus people in the UK. So I guess talking on experiences as a young person, I mean, obviously with like schools and representation, the education system, and the intersectionality between being Black and LGBTQI. Anyone wants to take the floor? So I'll go first. I think maybe I'm not being clear. I don't know. It's my first time hosting. They only got me to do it on Sunday. Whatever. The real Kai's gone. That's how bad I am. Come back, Kai. So yeah, maybe talking a little bit more about our experiences in schools. Maybe we can talk about like I said, I had quite a positive experience. One thing I would say, it was more about being a positive experience as an LGBTQI as a queer person. I went to Stoke Newington School, so my school was one of the first places. Somebody called Ellie Barnes was a teacher there, and they now they made sure that we had what's it called? Queer month, if you like a month celebrating queerness. They would give talks in the school, and I mean, there was homophobia was rife, you know, it wasn't nice. Kids are kids, but actually they made sure that if anything like that happened, it was really, really like come down on the other students, and they kind of changed the attitude amongst the teachers, because you hear a lot of teachers being kind of homophobic. And I was always shocked because it was never something I experienced with this teacher, Ellie Barnes, who then went on to actually start running the first international kind of going into schools and teaching teachers how to deal with LGBTQI individuals. And yeah, so my experience was kind of good in that, and I wonder how it was for others.
I went to a Catholic school. I went to Our Lady, so not far from Stoke Newington.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I actually had an economics class in Stoke Newington as well. So yeah, I did. Small world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously I was a Catholic school. It was all girls, and you know, the opportunity to express queerness just wasn't there. And there were people who were out in school as lesbians or bisexual, and I mean, they really got it like in a really bad way. They used to get bullied, and it wasn't nice. And I used to witness that. There was no way I was ever going to come. Because back then I already knew I had these feelings, but there was just no way that I was going to even try to come out, because it was that bad. And funny, because we looked at Stoke Newington as the gay school. Funny enough, yeah, it was like that. Yeah, because I mean, all the queer people we knew outside of school went to Stoke Newington, so that was nice to see. I mean, I wanted to go there, but I didn't get in. So, but yeah, but yeah, I mean, but from what I've seen now, anyway, apparently they do have people that come into the school to give talks about being queer, and it's nice to see that it is a lot more progressive than what it was back then. Even I had two teachers who were masculine presenting as well, and they taught RE. And that was just a talking point about those two teachers, that they were masculine presenting, and it was just never in a nice way. Even though there were some tomboys in the school, no one really equated that maybe these people might be queer themselves and stuff. But now, going forward now, especially when I created the fund, like loads of people reached out to me from school, and they were really happy for me. A lot of them were just saying they're happy that I'm living my truth, that they knew since school anyway, and stuff like that. And so it's been nice to see the journey and to see that people are able to come out on the more positive side, but back then it wasn't great.
I think I'd echo that. I think throughout all of my school life, whether that was junior school where I think because of this thing of age, they like to be like, okay, well, no, we don't discuss things related to sexuality at that age because, you know, it's not okay for kids to discuss. And it's like, well, no, because there are queer kids that need to know that, you know, the feelings that they have are completely natural. But from junior school, where it just wasn't discussed, so I went to a boys' high school, which was not fun. And it was rife with like homophobia, and I at no point remember any teacher ever kind of like coming down on it, or not even like, let's have a discussion about sexuality, but simply like, how about we don't use that language in class because that's unacceptable. So I think it was only until I went to college, which was not in Luton, it was in this very white village, where there were like openly gay students, and teachers would police the language that others used in class. And by that point, I think I got so used to performing a version of masculinity that kept me safe, that I almost didn't receive any of the benefits from it. Like I had just got so used to performing a version of myself that it was only really until I got to uni at 20, and I was like, oh, I can do what the fuck I want, if I can swear. Sorry.
And swear.
I can echo the experiences of you guys as well. I went to an all-girls school in Brixton. I went to 2 all-girls schools in Brixton. Yeah. So from year 8, I remember people were like, "Oh, she's gay," and I didn't even know. So that was fun. That and then I moved to my next school, which was St. Martin's. And to be honest, my experience in that school wasn't that bad. I think I was quite outspoken anyway. So I just kind of was loud about it. And the louder I was, the more people left me alone. Whereas some of my friends, they did get bullied because they were kind of like, you know, I don't really want to talk about it. Whenever they were asked questions, they would shy away. And I'm not trying to say that you should be loud about it at all. Think about your safety first. But for me, I was like, I have to be loud here. I don't really care. So that for me was enabling me to protect the other people. I would take it because I can deal with it. I'm strong enough. But when it came down to the teachers was kind of just stand around. They would see it happening and they would say nothing about it. My friend got bullied to the point where she had to move class. And instead of moving the bully, they moved my friend. So she had to be isolated by herself. And that's kind of like the experience that I had in school. With college, I don't know. As soon as I hit college, it was like everyone was queer. I went to Richmond upon Thames College, and yeah, I didn't feel uncomfortable at all. I remember I started that college and I think within a week I shaved off my hair, I got my tongue pierced, my eyebrow pierced, and I was like, woo, I'm here, you know, and everyone was fine with it. And the teachers spoke about it. I studied engineering, which I thought would be kind of like, but my teachers actively spoke about it. And I think, and they protected me as well when people did start to kind of try and come at me. So yeah, I mean, my experience in that sense has been all right.
Yeah, I didn't have a good school experience, but I don't know if it's mainly down to like, I wasn't out at school, so I wasn't able to get bullied for being queer, luckily. And I was kind of, I don't know, I was able to present in a way that was like, I don't know, nobody thought I was queer. And like, yeah, my school was a weird one. I went to Skins Academy, and like, there was a lot of Black people.
Yeah.
Like, it was, the majority of people were Black, and then like everyone, like Asian, Turkish people, like there wasn't a lot of white people. But nobody really got like let off the hook for being gay really in that school. Like there were a few people that were like rumored to be gay, and like people would just secretly whisper about them and stuff like that. So like I didn't feel like it was an environment that I would ever be able to come out in. And there was like one gay teacher before, and that gay teacher brought in one of the Stonewall posters and put it in a classroom window. And then kids started like being like, why is that there? all this? Like, and I was like, wow, it's just a poster, like saying that some people are gay, get over it, like not that deep. But yeah, I mean, I had one friend in secondary school who came out to me. Like they pulled me out of maths lesson to tell me like they were gay, and I was like, oh, that's amazing. Like I'm pan, like, but don't tell nobody and stuff like that. This was in the last year of secondary school, and that friend ended up coming up to another friend and like in an English lesson, and she was like, if I see you like kissing like someone of the same gender, I'm not gonna feel happy. And I was like, wow, like how hurt can you be? This is meant to be your friend, and like you're saying this type of stuff that you should be happy that they're happy. Like, so yeah, from that I could kind of tell that it just wasn't the right environment in my school to come out, and like I was also dealing with mental health issues and other things. So I was like, it's not it, like it's just piling on things. So but yeah, teachers kind of did the same thing in my school where they let homophobia just slide by like it was nothing, and like didn't ever kind of stand up for any of the students being bullied, unfortunately.
It's awful, really awful, because the thing is, I was gonna say, and I didn't want to sound like basic, but like kids are savage, you know what I mean? Like young kids are just savage. Like even from pre-secondary school, in my primary school, I remember being asked so many times, "Are you gay? Are you gay?" And at that age, like it's just you take that on and you take that in. Even it becomes an insult before you understand what an insult is, and it's one of the first things because kids are just like that, and it's like you expect them to have role models and they're just going off kind of what the people they see around them are doing, and it's like if the teachers aren't stepping in, like I'm always shocked to hear this about other schools, because like I went to the gay school, so and I think one thing, Aidan, you were saying about age and about like education, and I think it's like if it was to be taught in schools from earlier, it would normalize it to the point that that's one of the things that made it safe for me in my school. When I came out, I was like, yeah, good for you, because it wasn't this alien thing. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't this thing that was to laugh about and snigger at because there was a teacher there making those changes. And I think with the recently when the whole thing happened with teaching the trans experience, we're talking about transness in schools, and there was this huge uproar, and it's like it's putting young kids at risk, and I think it's important to have, yeah, I just wanted to say that. I think if we're talking on institutions as well, though, I think if we look outside of schools, like I don't know, I'm anti-institution, so I don't know what I'm talking about. Are we talking about banks? But like what's been people's experiences, I hate to bring it up, but with like the police and kind of with the infrastructure, like as Black people as well, and as queer people, for example, I know when I've been attacked for being queer after the Beyonce concert, and I was being hella queer, but I was attacked after that, and I reported it to the police, and it didn't feel like it was taken seriously. I think we were told not to report it as a hate crime so that they could do more, and it seemed like a backwards system. I wonder if anybody else feels comfortable sharing.
I mean, I've been stopped and searched loads of times, and been told that I look like a little boy. So is one of the reasons why they've stopped me, because I look like I'm up to something. I've also even just, and I know this is outside of like obviously police institutions, but I remember specifically being in a club and a fight broke out, and I had nothing to do with it. And the bouncers came to me and dragged me out and said, if I want to look like a man, they'll treat me like a man. So those have kind of been the experiences that I've had in that sense. Yeah, I've been stopped and searched so many times, and they've never had a good reason to do it. I've just been existing, you know?
Yeah, not really now, but when I had shorter hair, the short hair, I was stopped and searched about 3 times. but I did before. So in my early 20s, I did an apprenticeship with a CPS, so I knew some police jargon. So like I would just say, and then they'll basically kind of leave me alone. But I just thought, imagine if I didn't, like, how would it? It was really scary in that moment because, like, you know, people are being mishandled all the time, and there was no reason. I was walking down the street doing me, and I've never been involved in anything like that. So for them to like just pick me up because I look a certain way to them, it was scary because you just don't know where you're going to end up. It's their word against yours. That's how I felt in the moment anyway. And I just felt like their word was always going to overpower whatever I said. So I had to use their own jargon against them. And, you know, but it does make me scared for like even younger masculine presenting queer people as well. So there was a video that went around, was it last year? Or maybe earlier on this year, I'm not sure when it was, but there was a young masculine presenting person being mishandled by the police, and you know, like her girlfriend was just screaming like she's a girl, and they just didn't care. They continued, and she left with like cuts and bruises and stuff. And I mean, we're not exempt. Do you know what I mean? We're not exempt. Some people think because you're a lesbian, no one's going to stop you, like whatever, they're going to be your side, but it's actually, we're also not exempt as well.
Yeah, I think I've not had much experience with being stopped and searched myself, which is lucky. But I had an experience just the other day. I mean, my nephew came into my house. He's 16 years old, and he'd gone up to the shops to get me some eggs, and he just said like, "Oh, I got stopped and searched," and I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah, I got stopped and like really cash." And I was like, "Well, why? Why did they give you a reason?" He said, "Because I was running." Well, what? Yeah, they said the reason was because I was running, and I'm like, a bit even now. The what would you say? The lack of anything from him, just the normality of it, of that being their reason for him to be stopped and searched because he was running, you know, to the shop. It was just, and it's like that's the top tip. That's the least of our worries as Black people. There's videos of, you know, of police being absolutely. I mean, we know, Black Lives Matter movements going on. We know exactly what the fucking deal is. Which actually, I think, I wonder if. What do you guys think of when people say kind of like, oh, well, the UK doesn't have it as bad as far as kind of the treatment of racism? Do you think the UK is? Do you think the UK is racist?
Yes.
Honestly, I don't even entertain a conversation in that way because, of course, you know, it usually comes from the US, and I don't know why they don't think. I usually don't entertain that conversation because usually it's to downplay our experiences as Black British people, and I'm not here for that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the reason that.
Yeah, go on, sorry.
I was going to say the UK is definitely racist. It's the parent of racism. It found a way of making it very subversive, but also in a really obvious way and a really violent and horrific way. And the ways in which it like intersects with queerness and transness, because there's no like representation, there's no template for it. Often it's difficult for us, or myself anyway, to recognize all the ways in which my interactions with institutions, particularly law enforcement, how it is like very intrinsically linked to my identity, just from the way in which the police will communicate with me. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say like we're here, obviously we have a lot of institutional racism, and you know, because it's not, you just can't, it's not something you can video record. Everyone sees, well, it's not racist, they'll prove it, just prove it. But I mean, I work in the railway, and you know, a lot of people in the railway are there because their uncles were there, because their dads were their granddad. It's very, and back then it was British Rail back in the day, and everybody was white. And a lot of those attitudes are still there today. And even I had to have a meeting around this time last year, and the guy that I was going to the meeting with, he was so homophobic, but he just had no idea that I could be queer as well. Yeah. And the person we were going into the meeting with was, he had recently come out to everyone at work, because he was married before and stuff, so he had to come out and let everyone know. I don't feel he had to, but he did anyway. And there was also, we also had a trans person at work as well. And before we went into this meeting, he was just doing the most. And for me, it just felt like, well, how do I feel like even the Black queer person? Because he mentions things about, you know, all these new flavors are in the staff room now. I mean, we never used to see them back in the day. And it's like, it made me feel as a Black queer person, am I ever going to move from this role? Am I ever going to get to be a manager? Am I ever going to just step into a role that I prefer? Because these are the people who are making decisions at the end of the day. And even to someone who's white, but because they're queer, they're looking down them. And I have this added Blackness to me as well. Where do I go from here? Like, is the work I do here valuable? Am I just here to tick a box? And so I experience it at work myself. So if anyone says the UK is a racist, I mean, I'm here to tell you, it's there.
No, do you know what? Yeah, when you say certain things, I'm like, yeah, I definitely echo that, because when I first graduated, I worked in the automotive industry, and it is predominantly white cis males. And I remember being asked if I think I'm a quota, because I'm gay, I'm masculine presenting, I'm a woman, and I'm also dyslexic. So someone actually said to me, do you feel like you were just that one for all boxes?
Wow.
And that's how brazen they were in my workplace. I got told several times that, how do I know that I'm not getting paid less than the person in the same role as me? It was blatant. And when having conversations with senior management, it was just like, oh, they were probably just joking around, you know? I've been told maybe I may come across as more approachable if I wear like softer clothing. And it was wild for me, because living in London, I did experience some of that, but I moved to the Midlands. So I just thought, wow, is this the wild life that people live outside of the M25? Like, and I don't think I was equipped for it at all. And then I remember, like, I had to then find my community. So I did go to the groups, etc. But then I realized there was no intersectionality of the groups. So I was like, I fit in all these boxes, but none of them come together. So I'm kind of just here again with the Black people, with the gay, with the LGBT groups, but none of them really represent me either. So yeah, I really do understand, like, in a workplace, it can become quite difficult, because no one wants to have those conversations. No one wants to address things or educate themselves in those type of way.
And I think the really sad thing is, I think specifically like in the conversation about like interactions with the police, often as Black people, we have the thing of like, you go out into the world and it is racist and it's white supremacist, but you can come back home and you can unpack that with your family, or just to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel related to. But when it's that intersection of Blackness with queerness, and the things you're experiencing outside of the home are hostile to both of those identities, but when you come home, it is not the space to unpack all of that. You don't have anyone to share that with. You don't have anyone to be like, I know the world's telling you that you're wrong, but you're not. That is really challenging and really difficult. And that was something I know that I struggled with as a kid, because it was like I was dealing with all this crap from the world, and then I came home and I was like, well, I know you don't want to hear some of this, so I'm just going to hold on to this. And there was no one there to reinforce to me that like I'm perfect the way that I am, and that I'm not deserving of the ill treatment that I'm receiving.
Yeah, that's really true. I'm sorry for asking it like, is the UK racist? I know we know that it is, and I know that I think you know, everybody that I would hope watching is clued up and knows that it is. You know, I was trying to push a button, I pushed a button. But the thing is, I realized then we're in a talk that has like 10 minutes left, and actually, like, I don't want it to feel hopeless, you know, because it can be, it's like I'm nodding like a dog here, like one of them dogs on the dashboard to everything you guys are saying, because I'm like, yeah, speak. I wonder if we can just kind of talk on, you can't solve it in 10 minutes, but kind of like, where can we go for support? What can change? What things can happen? you know, maybe we can highlight some places that any young people, Black young LGBTQI people can kind of, different services that they can access maybe. Oh, okay, we got an extra half an hour and I just got the times wrong. Meow. Anyway.
While we're here, right, I think what I really want to highlight is that we also do have joy. Like we do smile and we do laugh. Because a lot of these questions have been around like our oppression, but it's like that's what the world wants to consume and that's how the world wants to see us. But we also have joy and we also have happiness. And I remember during the month of June when, you know, we had all the protests, etc., someone posted a video of just Black people laughing. And I'm not going to lie, that made my whole entire month because it was so heavy and there was so much sadness. And that's one thing that we also need to realize is that Black queer people have joy too. So just to swerve away from that conversation that we just had. And yeah, as you said, there's amazing organizations like Exist Loudly, the Colour Youth Network, which is kind of is based in like Manchester and Birmingham, right? I think. AZ, UK Black Pride. If you want to go and listen to some great podcasts, you have the Tutus podcast, you know. So I feel like we should highlight like the amazing things that are also happening for us. The tables that we have built for ourselves. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That's really, really good and really important. Yeah, I think more of that. Let's go around and share some positive shit. Do you know what I mean? Maybe we'll go around and talk about things.
Yeah, it's true. Like what Key was saying.
About themselves. Let's not.
Yeah, I mean, what Key was saying, like, you know, about the laughing video, like when all the lockdown stuff and everything, me and Nana, who's my co-host for the podcast, we just organised for a bunch of Black and queer people to go to the park and just chill. And it was like literally one of the highlights throughout all of this, after lockdown was lifted by then, by the way. But it was like, it just felt like a relief. It just felt nice, you know, to be around like just my chosen family. And it always feels like that. Like even for my birthday, when everyone they surprised me on my birthday, and it was just so, it's always good to just to see them and just laugh about familiar things. And yeah, those are the moments that I live for.
Yeah. I think it was for me, like I want to talk about as a cabaret performer as well, because queerness and Blackness enters, you know, it's a funny one when you're in this little like cabaret. For me as a cabaret performer, say that one more time, Reese. In a very like white dominated kind of, even in East London, you know, like, but there are beautiful things like the Cocoa Butter Club is a collective of Black performers celebrating Blackness and literally just showing Black excellence. And it's really, I've been part of it since it kind of began almost, and just seeing that go from strength to strength. We've done Underbelly Festival, we've done, you know, we've got a base in Berlin and a base in Australia, and of course there's Black Pride as well, which unfortunately didn't happen this year, but I think that's been on for a while now. I've done that a couple of times.
10 years.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, I thought you said something.
No, I think Black Pride's 10 years now, or
10 years, yeah.
That mark, right?
I've only been doing it for 4, so to my mind it's 4. But actually, do you know what? Black Pride was like, that was me again. Like, again, it was down in Vauxhall, but like, it was my first time of seeing this actual intersection between. It was just, do you know what? It was just it was the day after. Get your story right, Reese. It was the day after Pride, and I used to not like Pride, and again, actually, it reminds me of. I remember my first experience down in GAY. I went with my white friends, and it was just, I felt so unwelcome, and it wasn't anything. Nobody called me nothing, but I didn't feel safe there, and that was also a thing that can be reflected in Pride. And the next day I went along to that part, the Pleasure Gardens in Vauxhall, and oh my God, it was like I was home, do you know what I mean? And it was beautiful. It's a shame that that's not happening this year, but yeah.
What's Dope Black Queer's gonna be about? I saw that. I just followed the Instagram page for that. Like, what's that gonna be about?
Right?
Yeah, we launched. I think we launched on Sunday. So a few days ago. So in similar keeping with like dope black dads and mums, women and men, those are kind of part of the dope black family that already exists. It's just going to be kind of a space online and eventually in person as well, hopefully with some events that kind of just celebrates the joy, as Keith said, of blackness and its intersections of queerness and transness. We are working on a podcast to, join the podcasting family. Just to have more voices and stories to share in the sphere alongside things like tutus. Because I remember like one of the first times I guess it's not saw myself reflected because it's audio, but the Read podcast with Crystal and Kid Fury, although it's American based, but like just to hear these people talk about their lives and just like, oh wait, so they're just like living and like being black and gay, just like thriving, like laughing, being joyous and all that shit. So I think I'm kind of borrowing from that, and that's kind of going to be the vibes for the black queers, at least the podcast anyway. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
Hi. I'm waiting. I thought you were like getting ready to. It's just.
I don't know. I was gonna say like to add to like positive things. Another good group is Gendered Intelligence. They have like a colors section for like trans people of color, and it's just really nice to have a place where you can like be with other trans people of color. And it's a nice environment. Like there's so much joy with black trans people and black queer people in general. Like it's not all doom and gloom at all. Like we've got so much joy to give. So yeah.
I definitely think that black queer community, it's been nice to see just more people being themselves. So that I would say like when I first came out on the scene, everything was quite rigid and it was still, we just kind of still following heteronormative values, and it's nice now to see people like embracing their different styles, different types of identities. And like I don't think I knew anyone that was non-binary back then. I don't think I knew anyone that was non-binary until about 2 or 3 years ago. So it's like, it's just nice to see like everyone is just being themselves within a black community, especially because before then, I don't know, I didn't see it before, but now I'm seeing it.
And you know what? We're that fucking, because we're fire. Do you know what I mean? Black people are fire. And then when you know what I mean, the style of like non-binary like expression, just seeing that is gorgeous. And yeah, I also think I remember I went to. I'm saying it like it was years ago. It was like 2 months ago. But at the protests and the amount of I was down well near Vauxhall, as every story seems to be. But and there was the chant of queer Black Lives Matter, and that I'd been feeling a little bit anxious actually. I was wearing trans rights are human rights top, and I was feeling anxious if I'm honest, like because I wasn't sure how it was going to be seen or accepted, in that space. But seeing the black community, like everybody, it kind of got like, not that it matters, but a huge chant from everybody. I was looking around expecting to maybe see something, and there seemed to be this real acceptance and understanding of queerness, and I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah, I think there was a chant. They were like, stop killing the trans them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that was nice. Everything was like included.
So, right. So
yeah.
we've got about half an hour left. I think we're gonna open the floor to kind of questions that we might have been getting, and I should probably look into how I find out about that. So I'll be doing that. But how do you guys think, for anyone out there, like chosen family, how did you guys go about finding the people who you kind of are your networks and your networks of friends and chosen family? Kai, maybe you can start with.
Yeah, I got all my chosen family from like basically through Mosaic, going to other queer events and just meeting like amazing queer Black and trans people like, I definitely say try and find somewhere and find some type of community. I know it's hard because they're closing down like youth-centered things, and government in general aren't putting in any money into youth-centered things, even though they supposedly care about the youth and them committing crimes. But I'm not going to touch on that right now. But yeah, definitely try and find some kind of space where you can just grow your confidence. That's what having Mosaic did for me, like helped me grow my confidence outside of there as well, to go out and kind of face the world properly. So
I found a lot of mine through my time in education. So secondary school is where I found my first batch of like chosen family. And then I'd say university is like my second wave of family, is where I found those people. And it's not even through going to any groups. It was just like going to certain events and where people were like really open to have conversations. Someone asked me my pronouns, and that was even in uni. So that was great. And then I guess going from there, it would be like going to places like UK Black Pride, even at my own events with AZ, like I meet loads of different people. And I managed to meet like a few people over the years that now have like, are basically sisters to me. So that's how I kind of went about getting to know people.
For me, I'm not gonna lie, I started on a dating website.
Yeah.
And then like it just gravitated to like social media, and from there it was just, and then actually I saw one of my neighbours on one of these dating sites, and I do as well, I didn't know. So we just started going out together to like the raves and stuff, and then from there you just get to talking to people, and you just
Smoking area.
Yeah. Even like I even met you, I don't know if you remember, I met you in Black Pride, how many years ago now? Like 4 or 5 years ago? You guys were giving AZ stickers out. I think it was like when you guys launched. I don't know, or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I made loads of friends. I was like, do you want to
that day I met so many people that day, and that was at Black Pride. So Black Pride is like, it's such an important part of our community because it's just a happy space. And it's also, it's not a club, not everyone likes going out clubbing, and it's a place where you can just walk around, you can say hello to people, and people don't think you're being weird because you don't know them, you're saying hello. And yeah, like, so it is unfortunate that it happened this year, but Black Pride, I've met so many people at Black Pride. Yeah,
I'd say I've all of my, or most of my my close friends that you'd call chosen family at events, whether it is club nights and smoking area, like at PP or Black Pride, because like you put us together, you put like Black people, queer Black people together, like we just find each other, and it's like it's this unbridled joy that you've never experienced before, and it's in that you like make that family bond. But also go into, like you said, not everyone wants to go clubbing. Just go into some events, like talk, and just talking to people in the crowd. As we know, in lockdown, the physical events aren't like really a possibility now. So I know, like online spaces, I've found a bunch of my friends on Twitter, like just Twitter and Tumblr back when I was on there. But like those bonds, like those were lifelong bonds, because that was just where you came together and saw each other and was like, oh, we can have these conversations that I'm not having anywhere else. And it was through that like you make those familial bonds.
I do feel like, just to touch on UK Black Pride, I feel like it's such a pivotal thing. I remember when I was younger, you used to have to pay to go into UK Black Pride. So to see that it's transitioned into this massive thing that's free for everyone, you can see yourself on the stage, like you can actually have a good sound system as well, which is amazing, like and we're celebrated in that way, and we have the day and that space for ourselves. Because last year I remember standing up at one point and just looking around me and was like, wow, like we packed out this park, this is our community, this is us here, we're safe. And I think it's really important for organizations and individuals that are supporting like young Black people, young Black LGBT people, to invest or partner with organizations like this. I think it's really important. And if you are doing the work as like a social worker or something like that, if you want to find out more information, speak to organizations that are already doing the work or individuals that are already doing the work, and talk to young queer Black people. Talk to us, you know, because you're going to find out the most information from the actual people. So there's no point creating programs when you've never actually had a conversation just to say you create a youth program, you know?
Yeah, I think people are like scared of offending, and that's why we don't have the conversations. But we, like, young Black and queer people want to have these conversations. They want to talk, they want to express themselves. They want to tell you what to put in these programs and what not to put in there, because that's how you take away the offense that you might put in there. And also, when you don't talk to people, it shows you're not putting in the effort as well. So you're not necessarily doing it to better anything. You're just doing it to tick a box, and that's not what we need. We need it to actually be productive and to actually teach as well.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point as well. I think there can be this fear of doing things and getting things wrong, but I kind of feel like as long people are going to make mistakes, you know, and you've got to be okay with making those mistakes to then learn from those mistakes. If you don't make the mistakes in conversation or in questions that you ask within reason, there's going to be nothing. It's better to do it rather than to not do it and allow ignorance and stuff to continue. And Kai, you touched on something really good there, which I think I was thinking about the fact that there's probably a lot of youth workers tuning into this, and also maybe some people, quite a few people who are under 18. The good thing about Black Pride, about the online stuff that you were talking about, Aidan, as well, is that it's for under 18s. Maybe we can talk about how people who can't go to clubs and how people who can't access things that are a little bit, over 18, a couple of things that they can do to find these spaces and to find their people. Any recommendations?
Yeah, I would say follow like people like the Colours Youth Network, Exist Loudly, Tanya Compass, Tutus, AZ, UK Black Pride. Like, I can list so many organizations that you should be following. These people are doing the work, they're having the conversations. There's representation there. You see yourself, you see other people that are in your vicinity. And as you said, gendered intelligence would be a good one to follow also. Reach out, have those conversations. Like, you can send an email, no one's going to bite your head off. If you have questions, if people have the remit to answer, they will. And if they don't, maybe they'll forward you to somebody else that can.
I will also think, I'm trying to think of people, and this has just hit me now, I was scrolling through the questions. What about people who are older? What about people who are Black and queer and over 50? I know I work with the Posh Club with Ducky, Ducky runs from the Royal Vauxhall Tavern, and isn't Black led, but works a lot with the Black community. I work with them as a performer, and they run something called the Posh Club, which is a social club that runs on Sundays. We invite over 60s. A lot of there are people who come are Black elders, and they come and they have a dance. It's not LGBTQI led, but it is very queer. So that's my answer to that. I wonder if anybody else can think of anything for specifically older Black LGBTQI individuals.
I don't know if this is specifically for older queers, but I do see older queers at there's like a Sunday poetry event that happens in Hackney. And yeah, so I do tend to see older queer people there, and they perform, or if they're not poets, it's just a place for them to hang out. I think it's called LGBT poetry. I think it's just called LGBT poetry. It was in Tipsy, but I think they might have moved. I'm not too sure. It's been a while since, but obviously coronavirus and everything, so yeah, people have moved. But that's one to look out for as well. Yeah.
I'd also say Blackout UK. They are, I think they're more focused queer and gay men, but that is something that is led by older Black queer people, and it is more, well, not more of, but it is a lot of their events are aimed at like having conversations and bringing lots of different generations to the table. to have discussions and like share stories, experiences.
Sweet. I was thinking maybe we can open the floor to questions if people are up for that. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got quite a few 12 in there, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. I got 12. Some of them are long. I'm like, bish, I'm dyslexic too. I can't do this. I'm already feeling the pressure. Like, look, I took off my bloody coat. I'm here sweating like, right. I think this one, I spotted this one, but now I've lost it. So I guess this is to maybe people who were brought up religiously. Do you still feel that you belong to your faith as a result of sharing your of your LGBTQI plus identity, if you're comfortable talking about that?
So I was born into the Mormon church and I was there until, I don't know, a long time. And, you know, for a long time, I didn't feel like I belonged to the church, but I still maintained my spirituality anyway. And whether that was through like meditation or through prayer, it was definitely still something that I felt like I wanted to keep part of, because it was a part of who I was and I didn't want to lose that but then again, it didn't exist in the actual church building anymore. But one thing I will say though is, since doing the podcast and having a YouTube channel and creating the fund, like loads of people from the church have actually reached out to me, and I've been so surprised by it, and they've all told me that they accept me, and they've told me that they're happy for me, and you know, God is love ultimately. It doesn't matter whether I'm living a life that they feel like is not biblical, I think I'm still a person and they love me for who I am. So that's been quite comforting. And even on the podcast, we had an episode of Reverend Jide as well, who is a gay reverend in the Church of England, and I think it's Church of England, and he literally came and gave me all the faith that I needed, you know, like he gave all the validation I needed, and within being a Black Christian. And if he's able to exist in the church, even me who's not reverend, I can surely exist in the church as well. And you know, he just taught us that the religion is not about hatred. It's not about saying LGBT people are not allowed to exist in the church. And, you know, there are Black gays, and that's that really.
Yeah, I echo that as well. I was brought up Seventh-day Adventist until, gosh, when was I allowed to leave? Because until I was about 18, I went to church every Saturday, and Seventh-day Adventist is quite strict. So for me, I felt quite restricted going to church. However, since I go back every so often with like my aunts and stuff, and they have been quite receptive to me. They do still say, there's quite a few like older Jamaicans, so they still, they call me him, they call me it sometimes, but because I understand the generational kind of differences, I know that it's not meant in an offensive way. So they're quite accepting of me. And yeah, I feel like I could go back to church if I wanted to, if I'm strong enough, maybe.
I reckon you are. Cool. So I've got a question here. Is there anything we can expect from workplaces to do to support Black queer people? What are our concerns? How do you think that workspaces can be made into safer spaces for Black queers?
Oh.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I know. It's just because it's short, and then I read it and I was like, damn.
It's just, for me, it's been something that's been like quite big, because there are a lot of queer people in my workplace. A lot of people transition from being a hostess to coming into being a train guard or like a train manager or something. And so there just happens to be a lot of queer people there, but not many Black queer people. And I think it's important to give space to Black queer people to talk about their experiences. Like, we have an LGBT like forum and a group which is updated quite regularly, but you know, like there's hardly anyone I feel like I'm the only Black person I've seen in there actually in that group. But the only time they speak about being Black and queer is during Black Pride, when Black Pride is supposed to happen. That's the only thing they mention about it. And so I have made a suggestion that, you know, that Black queer people exist outside of that one day, which is normally June 28th or something like that. And, you know, just to try to include us in conversations a bit more and stuff like that. So, I mean, we'll see how it goes, but in my workplace, there's a lot. I think for me, the main thing is in conversation, give room for Black queer people to actually express themselves. Because even when I do talk to just my colleagues who are queer as well, I don't feel like I can talk about my queerness with them. And it's weird because even I remember I said to one of my colleagues, yeah, my girlfriend, he just, oh, he kind of thought it was my friend that's a girl, even though he was talking about his boyfriend. So to me, it was like, okay, I can't talk about this anymore. But yeah, so I just think just allow Black queer people to express themselves.
I think also people need to recognize their unconscious bias as well, because I think that's one thing that workplaces need to do, maybe get some unconscious bias training, because it's not just for, you know, like our white counterparts, we all have it. And I think once you start to recognize those, they can be things that you can put in place to better your workplace as well. I think people having an understanding of pronouns is really important. People have an understanding of like microaggressions, because a lot of people will say that they're not racist because they didn't outrightly call you the N-words, you know, but saying things like, can I touch your hair, and like I'm a dog, or you know, saying little things, making Black jokes and etc., and thinking that because you're not outwardly saying that words, you're not a racist. I think those are the things that workplaces need to put in place.
Yeah, agreed. And normalizing in it, because normalizing that so that when you are called out, it's not us as Black people who are attacking or being oversensitive. I think the more that it's part of the kind of infrastructure of the way that the workspaces are, the more safe people will feel to talk and to call these things out, which is very important. Okay, I have a question here from Liz saying, so I'm currently in graduate school to become a licensed professional counsellor because I have a passion for helping people, and I believe counselling can be for the benefit of everyone. I wanted to know what you guys think a counsellor would need to keep in mind to help counsel someone who is Black and part of the LGBTQI+ community. So for me, I'll jump right in. It's an interesting question. I think some of the stuff that we've said already in the conversation can apply to that, of course. It's a hard one. This person doesn't say their color, but I know that as I've had counseling since I was like 5, and I actually went and found a different counsellor because the last one I got on the NHS was a middle-class white woman, and I was talking about stuff that it was just like, I can sense that I don't want to have to explain my world to you. Some stuff that's normal for me, you have no concept of. And then there can be feelings of shame attached to that, which actually there shouldn't be, because that's the least of my worries, having that from my counsellor. So it's in that respect, that's a hard question for me to answer. I think things like being clued up on the person with whom you're dealing or their experience. And to that end, I think you need to go and educate yourself. If you are white, you need to do the reading, do the books as everybody does. Because if you're going to be counseling somebody who has a different lived experience from you, I don't know how you can really offer that much help if you don't understand, or at least can't be receptive to that experience. And knowing I could explain myself to this woman, but the sense that I got of judgment, whether I was projecting that or not, might not have happened if she knew a little bit more. That's my own thinking.
Yeah, just to add on, so I started the Black LGBTQIA therapy fund, and what we do is we fund therapy for Black and queer people. We actually pay for the sessions, and I mean, through that process, I've just learned there aren't many Black and queer therapists, and you know, they always tend to recommend the same ones who I've already contacted and stuff like that. And even from people that have applied to the fund as well, one of the main things that they do always ask for is a Black and queer therapist, just because they feel like the understanding is already there and they don't have to further explain themselves. Because when you have further explain yourself, then you're often reliving certain traumas, and it's not definite that the person is even going to understand what you're saying or be able to handle what you're saying. So even if you're, I'm not sure where Liz is from, but even if you are wanting to help, sometimes it's about getting other Black counsellors in that space instead to do the work. And even that is already helpful in itself, because a lot of these people struggle to find, they find a lot of white counsellors and white therapists all the time. And it's easy, especially, and even queer ones as well, but even for Black and queer, it's even harder to get, even for looking for a Black trans therapist. I mean, in the whole of UK, I think I found one. And it's really hard. So if you just know of somebody else, then just hand over the information and get them the best help that way, I would say. Just because it makes the person who's received, it's all about the person that's receiving the counselling or the therapy. It's all about that person, their comfortability. So that's what I would say, that's one way to help with that. Just to, if you know somebody else that can do the job better, then don't be afraid just to pass it on.
And even if you're the only person if you're this person's counsellor, and there's no like way of getting them someone else who may identify with their identities, I think if within yourself you are acknowledging the differences that you have and the fact that you are going to have a deficit of understanding, and even maybe voicing that in your sessions. I've never had a Black and queer therapist, but I've had two therapists. One's a queer white woman and one is a cishet Black man. And in both of those relationships, what has allowed for the good work to happen is when we both kind of acknowledged, like, so you're this and I'm this, and there are some differences and there's some misunderstanding that is going to happen unless we acknowledge that at all points. And so going into your session and your work, I think that may help as well.
I have a question to Aidan from somebody who didn't catch the name of, I think they've said the intergenerational convoys, but was that when you were talking about the
Blackout? I think Blackout UK.
Maybe. Intergenerational convoys. I don't know if I'm misunderstanding that. Yeah, maybe it was Blackout. I think that's the one you did say. So that's for Senem. Okay. We've probably got time for one more, I believe. I'm a volunteer for a youth I'm a volunteer youth leader at an LGBTQI+ group, providing a safe space for 13 to 19-year-olds. The group has 50+ members, but the overwhelming majority are white. Do you have any suggestions for how we can make the group more accessible for Black and other people of colour? Also, I did my first London Pride 2 years ago, and now you have sold me on attending UK Black Pride. Cool. So, does anybody want to take that? No.
I would say, like, if this is like a small like organization, it'd be nice if you're able to find like maybe a Black, queer, or Black and trans volunteer, because it kind of makes young people that look like that person feel a bit more comfortable in that environment, knowing that it's just not just like white queer people that they're interacting with.
Yeah, I think
I just want to touch on something quickly as well, and it's completely off topic, but I don't feel like we touched it. The fact that we need, during Pride Month and outside of it, just more representation of Black queer people in general, not just we do have some beautiful faces that we always see. There's usually about 10 beautiful faces that we always see, but just to know that there are more people out there that you can include in your campaigns. And if you want to talk about representation, then you need to represent the arts, represent engineering, represent the sciences, represent, you know, every across the board, because there's so many young people out there that might not want to go into the creative industry, that don't see themselves represented throughout any sort of brand or on any sort of platform. So I think just to add that in there, because I think that's really important.
Right, cool. I think we are coming towards the end of our discussion. I guess I want to say thank you. Oh, it's Shanice. Oi. Maybe you're going to say thank you. Well,
Yeah.
Thanks for having me anyway.
Thank you so much. I think thank you so much to the whole panel. I think the conversation has been really interesting just to listen in and hear in, and I'm hoping everyone who was listening found something useful and tangible that they can do and go away and make their spaces more inclusive for Black queer people. Just to end it off, for any Black queer young person that's listening, it would be really great if you could give a final word of encouragement to them. So I'll just go around. Reese, do you want to start first? What would you like to say to any Black queer person that's listening?
I think that first of all, you're amazing. You're amazing. Remember that. Tell yourself that every day, because you are. Just existing, just breathing is amazing for us in this world. It's a hard fucking card to be dealt, but we're boss bitches. And remember that your people are out here. If you're listening into this, you know, and you hope you've seen from this, that you can find your people. And borrowing off what Keith was saying as well, it might not be in the creative industry, it might not be in the clubs that we're talking about, but there's online, you can find, you know, there's reading things. If you look hard enough, you'll find your people, and when you find them, they'll welcome you with open arms. And I forget the time when I didn't know. I don't know any straight people pretty much now, except for my sister. And I forget that there was a time when I didn't know any queer people, you know, and that when you get into that world, wow, it's fun.
Thank you. Aidan?
To queer Black young people listening, you're perfect the way you are, and don't ever forget that. And the world is tough, but I think, like Reese said, like, your family is out there, and it's just about finding them. And I love you.
Thank you. Key?
Just want to say that you're loved, you're seen, you're heard. Your family's out there. We're your family, to be honest. So if you have any questions, like, feel free to come through to AZ and ask any questions that you want. We can help you to guide you in whatever direction you need, or the facilities that you need. Yeah, and just to be yourself safely, though, because I know that you're not always able to do that within your family home, but just know that there's online facilities where you can be yourself and you can meet like-minded people.
Thank you. Rose?
I just want to say that I'm proud of you. I want you to keep doing you, keep being yourselves. I also love you as well. We are all family, and just don't be afraid to reach out, you know, like, if you feel like you don't have anyone else, my Instagram is there. Reach out to me. Tutu's podcast, you know, we try to do topics that to include everyone, and even those who feel like they don't have anyone else to talk to. So listen in, drop us a DM, and yeah, I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Kai?
I would say, like, remember that you're literally pure gold, and like every single intersection that you have makes you so strong, and your resilience is worth it. And also, I was gonna say, on, like, I think the question we were talking about before, there are two types of counselling organizations, Spectra and Growing Minds. Growing Minds does, like, Black therapists for, I think, young people, and Spectra's trans specific as well. So if you're looking for places, I would recommend those.
Great, thank you. Thank you all so much. I think this conversation has been so rich. We also want to say thank you to our supporters, so to Citibank, Oliver Bonus, and to Mosaic Young People's Trust. Thank you so much. And we'll be hosting another conversation for the Young and Black webinar series next week. So go onto our Eventbrite, get tickets for those, but also follow all these amazing people on this panel because they're doing incredible things and they have access and information for a lot of young people as well. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
You.
Bye.